How did you manage two children who are on the spectrum?
Traveling together or spending time together was very tricky because Shaunak has auditory hypersensitivity. He cannot see the other person crying or being upset. He couldn't understand why the baby is crying. So we had to make a social story for it that this is when the baby cries and what you can do. During travel, we had to travel in separate cars because Shaunak is an anxious person. He would be asking questions, where are we going, where are we going? And that used to trigger Niva. Niva would get upset, and then that used to trigger Shaunak. So whenever we were traveling, we made sure that we had both sets of grandparents. It was a difficult time, but we are here as happy.
There is no judgment here. You need to do what is best for yourself and for your child. So keep that as a focus of any decision that you make, because ultimately our children are going to be around long after us. So we need to prepare them for that world. So do what is best for your child and let us worry about the rest.
Few of the challenges that you go through in this journey that you are on.
So from an educator's perspective, if you look at it, apart from more than challenge, I think it's not really a negative connotation, because it's all about perspective in that sense. Every day may be a new day. Every hour may be a new hour. And the main thing that really helps is an open mind. That you can expect the unexpected at any point in time, and that helps. So while we talk about structure for our neurotypical, neurodivergent children, that structure helps us adults as well. So it just prompts you to think of different ways to reach out to the child where they are. Because I may be at a certain point today, but I may not be at that point tomorrow. And it's about acceptance, that it's okay to be wherever you are today. Let's take it one step at a time. So there's no pressure as such. So that's one aspect. I think just having to look for different ways to reach out to our children. But that keeps us on our toes, to be honest. Otherwise, it would just be very dull, and there's never a dull moment. So it's something that the team is also very passionate about. And I think I'm very fortunate in that sense to have a team who never takes no for an answer. There is no never say die attitude. That's how the team is. So really fortunate there. Aside from that, another ground reality, I think, is sometimes this is more from the parents' perspective, where perhaps two parents are not on the same page where the child is concerned. So it could be different practices where discipline is concerned, or even just the acceptance of difficulty, where one parent may be very, very well informed, proactive, raring to go where all interventions are concerned, but the other parent may be prone to the societal stigma, or just not being able to accept that their child has unique needs. So while you would think that in an integrated setup that acceptance and awareness stage has already been passed, it's unfortunately not always the case. So there's always a battle or a conversation in that sense that we kind of enter into, and it's a process, because to get somebody to see the reality, you're already, as a professional, you do acknowledge that this is objective for me. I know that you are in an emotional position because it's your child, so I cannot pretend to know what you're going through, but at the same time, it's going to be okay. So we try to give them the positive aspects, what the child's strengths are, to focus on that, because believe it or not, whether the child is verbal, non-verbal, they're very, very perceptive. So they pick up on your non-verbal. So if you seem down, you seem dejected, that really impacts the child. Yes. And if you are, ready to go, if you are proactive, that really helps. And I can say that of our children also. We know some parents are extremely hands-on with their children. You can see it in the child's demeanor, in their ways of handling their challenges. So that's one aspect where sometimes there's a difference in terms of perspectives, and just getting everyone on the same page becomes a challenge. So I think this is something that constantly we expect it also, and we do our best to kind of bring everyone on the same page, because ultimately any decision that you make, the child is at the center of it. So that's one thing that's common for everyone, whether it's therapist, teacher, parent. The child is at the center of our decisions. So sometimes we get through, sometimes not yet, but that's an ongoing, I think, discussion. Yeah.
Fabulous, fantastic. Also, with the amazing work that you're doing comes a lot of achievements and lots of awards. If you could tell us about that as well, ma'am.
So with regard to awards, again, at the risk of sounding cliched, when you see our children making even small steps of progress, somebody may not be able to voice what they're feeling. If they have a spontaneous greeting towards the teacher or a peer and just say hi, that's an award for us as well. And that's something, when you have that concerted effort to get the child to achieve certain goals that align with their levels, then even that seems like a real rewarding process. So I think our expectations of what is an achievement need to be very realistic in that sense, and we have to celebrate even the smaller wins. So that's one aspect of it. Aside from that, I think when it comes to awards, we've again been very fortunate that our efforts have been recognized. So for more than 5 years in a row, we have been awarded among India's, I think, top 4 special needs schools and Maharashtra's top 3. So again, this is a very, very concerted effort of the entire team, because a lot goes into doing what you do, in showing up even when you know that you have only that 1 ounce of energy. So that this is like a testament to what the team does. So we're very fortunate, and and this is the Education World Awards that we've received for more than 5 years, I think, in a row. So extremely proud of that. When it comes to achievements, I think that's something that is something we are most excited about, what our children are doing, their accomplishments. So while small steps are very rewarding, we've had the fortune to witness bigger wins as well. So our children, whether it comes to swimming, we have one of our students who's recently won a gold, I think, in the freestyle Shivaji Park competition, the swimming competition. So that was one win that we celebrated. We have some of our children who are very inclined to music. So in fact, there was an inter-school competition recently that was hosted by Concern India Foundation. So our children won gold there. Shaunak was one of them. So he made us proud as well. And it's a vast array, I think, of fields. One of our DLP children, who's, I think, barely 6 years old, he took part in this skating competition and created a record for the largest number, group size that took part in that competition. So it was really a proud moment for us. And more recently, we've had one of our students who is, again, very musically inclined. He's into production. So he's composed, written 2 songs that have now released on different platforms, Spotify, YouTube. So that was really a proud moment for us. And the most recent, I think, addition is one of our ex-students who he had created a... I'm not very social media savvy, so the word is not coming to me, but handle, I believe, yeah. So he is, again, neurodivergent, and he created this ID where he was motivating other children to, look past the challenges, and he was doing it in a very unique way. He's always been a very funny, very almost cocky sort of student, so we've enjoyed those interactions. And one of his videos, I think, got picked up by Amir Khan's team. So he starred in the recently released Sitare Zameen. So that was really like a proud moment for us. In fact, he'll be coming to interact with our children, give them a glimpse into his journey, and just that empathy factor that I've been there, and this is not it. There's lots to come. So that's something that we're really looking forward to. So
Wow. These are real achievements. Believe me, as in, they are satisfying your soul. These are called real achievements. Awesome. Awesome.
And this could not have been possible without the concerted effort. It's about the family's backing. It's about therapies that you get to on time. You make sure that they are consistent, goals are achieved, feedback is regularly sought and shared. So that's something that, while you see, again, this is also the tip of the iceberg, the achievement, but everything that has gone into it, the journey itself is the most important. So it's
So true.
about not giving up,
And on daily basis, showing up and giving in your 100%. I can see the enthusiasm. As you said, your team. It's a team effort.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. And I think you are a really good coach who is really training them well. I can see your attitude. You're always cheerful, happy. I can see that. And that calm. So all this really matters and it trickles down to your team. So good.
I think
love
my
your
team does sometimes poke me about the poker face, so you don't know what's happening within.
Really?
Yes, but ultimately, I think it being prepared for anything is what helps. That don't let it get you down. It's okay. It's a setback, but it's not permanent. We'll get past it. You just have to get up and keep going. So
you must be like somebody. This child is doing. Okay. So I think that must be
a typical meeting you summed up.
That gives you a calm, because if your mentor as well is, oh, this is it. So then it creates a panic situation. Rather, I would really love this calm kind of an attitude where, yes, we'll handle it.
And refer on a daily basis. There's no way around that. It will be done. You just have to have that faith that it will be done.
It will
and
be done.
we are the ones who do it. So that's.
And I think it helps in the older children also, especially the teens, when your head is co-regulated, who's calm, because that is the calm in the chaos which they are going through. So it helps.
I could figure that out. So, ma'am, we have spoken about academics, therapies, and the integrative setup. Now let's come to reality. How do you make them future ready and world ready?
So first of all, world readiness is not really a destination. It is a journey.
Different.
In every aspect of our functioning. So whether it is, interacting with someone you meet in an elevator while you're riding downstairs to come to school, or it could be eventually where you're interviewing for the job of your dreams. So world readiness actually begins very early, and that's why the emphasis begins early in life itself. But at no point do we not acknowledge that there are certain challenges, there are certain gaps that we need to help and support our children to fill. So for that, there is something called explicit instructions, where you need something that may be taken for granted in a neurotypical child. You need to actually provide that information to a child who's neurodivergent to say, this is what you can do in this situation. So preparing them for different scenarios, outcomes is something that we do in our life skills classes. We have life skills as part of their timetable. So that's where, we simulate different setups, whether it's a market where you might need to purchase something. It could be a restaurant where you're, maybe giving an order, receiving your change back. So these are the different potential scenarios. And we do rely a lot on our parent body to help with this, because try as you might, you can only give the children a certain glimpse into experiences while at school. So we have a lot of guest speakers who come in, professionals from different fields. who, give the children an insight into what the reality is. Because sometimes listening to your own teachers, it becomes like how you're listening to your parents back at home. You need a fresh perspective. So we have a lot of guest speakers coming in. We have field trips where our children see how things pan out. So that's something that we do. In fact, for our older children, we also have something called edu tours, which is a compulsory sort of overnight trip for our grades 9 to 12, where we specially curate a visit to different industrial setups. It could be a primary sector, different kinds, packaging, warehousing. So children are given exposure to different aspects of that particular business, and they are given an opportunity to interact with the people who are actually doing those things. We also have the very coveted Young Entrepreneurs competition while they are on their edu tours. So the children are divided into groups where they are encouraged to either come up with a product and, everything from branding to marketing to, what their product will be. And then there's like a competition where each group presents what their product is. It could be a service as well. And then they receive a trophy on our awards day for that. So that's our Young Entrepreneur. So it gives you a glimpse into what actually is out there and then what you would like to do as well. It's a balance of both, so that's one aspect. We also have something called the observership for our grade 11 and 12, because we have a junior college program as well at TAPIS. So here is where, again, the children prepare for interviews. It starts from their readiness for the job, looking at what skills you require. So they are given guidance in all these aspects. They are taught how to make presentations, resumes, how to put down your work experience, what skills or what value you can bring to that particular organization. So we have simulations like that. And the children actually then are placed in, it could be an HR firm, it could be maybe different corporate offices where again there is that interaction with people who work there, and the children then create a project at the end of their observership, which is then feedback is given by the people of that particular corporate organization. So they receive very objective feedback from people who are actually in the field. So it's not something the teachers guide them, but it's purely their work. So these are small ways in which we try to bring the world to the children before the children actually go out into the world. And for every parent who sets foot at TAPIS, I think one of the first conversations we have, which is a common goal, I think, for school and the family, is that we will make the child as independent as possible. So even if that means taking certain hard calls or being the bad cop sometimes, it's all in the interest of the child's eventual development, because everybody is not sensitive out there in the world. Everybody is not empathetic. And for us to prepare our children for those scenarios. So, for example, in one of our events, that's the school carnival again, it's a very, very exciting time for the children. We have stalls, we have games. We also have a cafeteria. So we allot duties to our children to man those stalls, to have that real world experience of, taking someone's order, because somebody might have that dream of maybe opening their own cafe. And as we know in startups, you have to do everything. You're not going to be sitting back and just reaping the benefits. So we actually help them to get down and, get their hands involved in the process, so that they can even learn that there will be setbacks. Sometimes orders are delayed, or there may be calculation errors in bringing back change. So for them to experience these things firsthand also develops empathy and brings about that world readiness. So we do have, we are very proud actually to offer these experiences to the children so that they can develop that sense of responsibility. Even at the junior school level, for that matter, we have the remedial program, which is not only focused on academic skills, but also organization. Where are my things kept? Maybe color coding certain books, because the children may not be independent readers, but that doesn't mean that you can't color code books according to subjects, so that they can find their own things and tag their bags. So this is what I'm talking about. It starts early, and then gradually we add layers of experiences so that we can give them the best chance at success. So,
Wow. I really wish I would have been in such a setup. We would have been so all ready, to be very frank. Oops. The right kind of guidance is being given. Ma'am, what's your experience with this?
I think, like what man said, simple things of color coordinating, like the journals, packing your own bag, be responsible. I remember Shaunak was given a responsibility of switching off the class lights when he stopped.
Wow.
It may sound a small response,
Yeah,
but to having to remember that no, I'm responsible for switching off the light. They have a very beautiful way of reinforcement. Shaunak in grade 3, I think he had a beautiful plant. So it starts from a seed, and the more positive, to give positive reinforcements, it grows, and eventually a butterfly sits. So towards the end, he actually had a butterfly on his plant, and he works towards it. So there are beautiful ways where the children are encouraged. Like there was a cloud with stars, and these stars were color coded, like red star for raising a hand, or blue star for helping others. So you get stars in your cloud, and then I have a cloud full of stars. So the experience has been very, very positive, and I mean, majority part of the day is what Shauna spends in school. And as parents of differently abled children, we are already very anxious. We are stressed. Having a place where he goes safe, sound, and so reinforcing that he has a positive experience. My non-speaking girl, like she has few words. She gets up every day morning and she's ready to go. And not once has she said Nakko school. Because it offers that safe place for her,
Yes.
though the travel is lot, but she looks forward to it. And I think that says a lot about the school environment.
True.
Like today it was raining cats and dogs, but Sean still wanted to go. He had career guidance counseling, which is which was a big thing for him because he wants to be a musician, and the everybody gave it importance. He had to write his own form on his prose or what he is good at, and it was a very enriching experience for him to write his positives, because that's also self-esteem. And
Yes.
while we are speaking about school, it's also a very pre-vocational skill we are looking at, that you go to a place and you, like when we talk about an iOS board, and there are many parents who say that we can do it at home. Why would we go to a school? But it is the part where we are working on the pre-vocational skills, that I go to a place, I work, and I come back. And it's also enriching for his self-esteem. So we have had a very good experience. Shaunak was also given a duty of greeting parents. Now, Shaunak has a difficulty waiting in one place. But because it was a clearly designated place, he was also given a companion who was likely to be standing in one place better. It was a very unique pairing up, that he could know that, oh, I have to also stand here and greet the parents. It was beautiful.
Well thought.
It was thoughtful, and the confidence which he had, if I did that, I dressed up for the event, is, I don't think I can get that experience anywhere else. So thank you for that.
Beyond amazing things that you are doing so intricately, everything is being taken care of. Yes, very thoughtfully, very intricately. Fabulous. Fantastic. I am super impressed. So let's talk about what are your future goals?
I think as an organization, one of the biggest goals is to continue to do what we do. So whether it is like Mr. Joshi spoke about, advocacy of rights, whether it's about empowering the children to recognize their own strengths and their own value in society, so that no one can tell you otherwise. So that's something that I hope to continue doing. When it comes to training of the team, because while we are well intentioned, it's important to keep up with the times, to share best practices, and to then follow those through in our classrooms and with our children. So a lot of our professional development is also centered around student-centric topics, whether it's therapies and their impact. Like, for example, we are next week going to have one on neurodivergence and puberty. So very often we have situations in classrooms where, children are expressing certain urges, or, which is part of development. But again, it requires a little sensitivity in terms of handling where you're balancing between ensuring that the child doesn't feel the shame of a natural process and yet imparting the knowledge of what's appropriate and where. So, professional development workshops like these are something we're always looking to offer, even parent workshops for that matter, in terms of sensitizing parents and helping them to then pass on that knowledge to their circles, to their immediate surroundings, because it's not always that families are on the same page either when it comes to different abilities. So that's one aspect, I think, our professional development, and in terms of even our curriculum, to try and keep it as aligned with our children's needs as possible, because it's a constant balancing act again between ultimately what is considered an academic milestone and what the child actually needs in order to reach there or even close for that matter. So even a lot of our curriculum is developed in-house, where we are looking at maybe different textbooks or even the internet for that matter, use of artificial intelligence, which again, there's a very mixed opinion here, but I do believe that when there is a technology available, you need to be able to derive the benefits of that. I heard in some workshop that 90% of the jobs that we have right now in a decade will be redundant. So the kind of experience that our children can expect is also going to be very technologically driven. So, there's no harm in using it responsibly and teaching the students to do so as well. So I think a lot of our future goals are AI based as well, to make the most of it for the teachers as well, to help plan better, and as well as for the children to know what to expect in a futuristic world. So I think these are some of the goals, and I'm quite proud to say that while it is a goal for the future, it's not something that we are not doing already. So just to keep on the same track, and it really helps to get feedback. So I think to continue to have collaborative experiences with parents, whether it's through meetings, therapy feedbacks, we have something called a multidisciplinary meeting periodically within the team, where the therapists, the teachers, and our medical team also sit together and discuss every child, what their needs are, what their progress is. So more of those kind of collaborative meetings really help as well, so that we can then translate each other's learnings into our practices. So that's very excited. In fact, our school has just completed 10 years last year. So it's gone by in a blink, because for those of us who've been there since inception, it's been quite a journey. So we're just very excited to see what the future holds.
Fabulous. I'm so sure the future is super bright.
That's what we
The
did.
kind of work that you all are doing is remarkably amazing. Keep continuing, please, and we'll pray that you all get much, much, much better, and keep showing your wonders. You can see the parents are validating, and you can see the future of these children shaping up so well. You yourself spoke about a few. There will be so many.
Absolutely. It's all tip of the iceberg. So
Yeah,
Yes.
definitely. Ma'am, you, I know, are contributing a lot towards the society. Like you said, you've been taking up lectures and all of that. What is your future goal, or maybe what are your visions?
Yeah, I'm a parent first. So the goals for the children are like with Shaunak, it's very clear that eventually he will, whatever his path is, he will follow that. Making them a self-advocate where he knows his needs, where he can stand up for himself is the plan. For Neva, it's too young. I still need to work a lot. I'm still discovering autism with her. She's a girl, and though we talk about one person being one person on the spectrum, again, it's siblings, it's so different. So working with her communication is what I want to first do. And eventually, because she's a girl, eventually working towards her puberty, and personally speaking, I would love to do more for the society. I wish I had the time, but I am taking lectures for this on puberty and growing up for neurodivergent children. I also have a neurodivergent OPD for our girls, which is and it's pro bono. so which is near to my heart. So eventually doing a research also on girls on the spectrum and their experiences with gynecological issues is on page. So hoping for that.
Wow.
Amazing.
Wishing you all the very best for that. It is the need of the hour, which is very important to be addressed. Also, I would love to know from both of you, any one experience that has touched your heart. There will be many, I am so sure, but any one that you can think of right now.
Yeah, I think when you ask a question like this, 2 decades just kind of go by in full speed, like a reel going, but it's been made up of little moments. So I think when it comes to our children, I was talking about celebrating small wins. So one child comes to mind who joined our school and completely nonverbal and again struggling with a lot of emotional behavioral concerns and not able to express what exactly was going on. So, with a lot of therapy, with a lot of again interdisciplinary meetings, because we are always, there's no such thing as I have all the answers. Today I have the answers, tomorrow it's you. So, there's a lot of knowledge sharing that happens with the team as well. If we find that we are stuck with maybe the progress of a particular child, or if someone else has a strategy that might have worked. So that was the case here, where we would have these constant feedback meetings, what to do, how to kind of help this child. And it was through a lot of therapy, a lot of focused speech, occupation therapy, a lot of behavior therapy, concentrated effort, and with a lot of inputs again from the parents, because I do believe that a parent knows their child best. So a lot of inputs, but today I think it's been about 4 years since that child is with us. He is able to not speak in complete sentences, but he's at least able to express his meaning. And it could be as simple as, I need to use the washroom. Even something like that is not automatically ingrained in our children, and yet it becomes so important, particularly as they grow older. So if things like I didn't understand, things like that, where you need to communicate an immediate need, that's what we see. So that kind of reaffirms, seeing that he's reached there, giving a smile to a classmate. This is what we are at right now. So some of the teachers that he is familiar with received that much coveted smile. But so things like these really kind of reaffirm what we do and the power of early intervention, because I cannot stress that enough. So that is something that comes to mind. And of course, there's too many to name right now, but a lot of the children do make us very proud. But we do look out for small sparks of progress as well. That will eventually create a bigger progress.
Any of your experience, ma'am?
So as parents to given children, we are like they say that the stress which especially differently able children parents face is as much as those soldiers fighting a war, and that is the level of stress we go through. But at the end of the day, it is about knowing, accepting that your children are different, because if you don't help them, who is going to help them? So I feel as parents, acceptance needs to be there. There's no need to hop therapy and hop doctors and hearing what you wish were different. I as a doctor believe in evidence-based therapies. So the third thing what I would feel is like for example, Shaunak the other day told me that he would have a meltdown on looking at yellow buses in a road he used to go, was because he thought he would never see them ever again. So that voice which you give to your child, or even Niva using her avaz and telling that she's feeling upset and because she's thinking about getting hurt, is that advocacy or that voice which as a parent you want to give your child. And so at the end of the day, it's about them being happy with each other. And many a times parents ask me, how do you handle 2 children on this spectrum? How do you do this? How do you go for therapies? Because just apart from school, we have so much going on, because we want them to have music. We want them to be good at sports, not just for as a skill, but for their regulation. Sports is so important. So many things are going on. And they ask me, how do you do it? And I am like, with a smile, because that's what it is. And at the end of the day, you have a game plan given to you and you just have to follow it.
True.
So as parents, I would, would love to tell other parents that self-care is important. Do not take that away from yourself. The children are a part of your life. They are not your entire life. And it is what it is. So there's no blame game there, and just following the plan.
So, yes, I would love to ask that very typical question. How did you manage two children who are on the spectrum?
Yeah. So knowing that there was a possibility of my second one also, facing developmental delay, we did keep a close eye on her milestones. But the challenging part was preparing Shaunak for the arrival of the second child, because he has had issues with transitioning, to have a person who is going to be with mama all the time. So we actually had a doll bought in, and we used to change diapers on that doll, ask him to be be careful around the doll. We kept the doll in a very secluded place, so that secluded meaning in a pram, so that he wouldn't accidentally step, and then we would ask him to look after the doll. So this was done in a very planned way, and also ensuring that when that baby does come in, he's looked after, his needs are met, his structures kept the same way. We had given him a 7 days schedule when I would be in the hospital as to what he would be doing at home during that time. During my antenatal period, I had to ensure that I get rest because of, being a gynae at everything. So my husband took over the therapies and, of the school part, attending meetings. So it was a very planned event where he knew exactly when the baby is going to come. It was a planned section. So he came to visit me. So that bond was there right from the beginning. And the baby being there, so it was nothing new for him to be spending time with the baby. Mama's changing diapers, mama's feeding the baby. So it was nothing different. So he was prepared for that right from the beginning. Traveling together or, spending time together was very tricky, because Shaunak has auditory hypersensitivity, and he also has a very strong empathy. He cannot see the other person crying or being upset. So he couldn't understand why the baby is crying. So we had to make a social story for it, that, this is when the baby cries and what you can do. There was a time which was very difficult when the younger one grew 2 years, and, the terrible two started when she was crying and all that. And it used to be like a match to and fro. Shaunak would get upset, Niva would cry harder, Shaunak would get more upset. And it was a very trying time for us as a family, because who would regulate, who would co-regulate? And again, we had to work on it at a very ground level, that why does she cry? And therein came the perspective that she cries because this is the time and what you can do. And now both of them happily spend time with each other. During travel, we had to travel in separate cars, because if Shaunak is an anxious person, he would be asking questions, where are we going? Where are we going? And that used to trigger Niva. Niva would get upset, and then that used to trigger Shaunak. So whenever we were traveling, we made sure that we had both sets of grandparents, each traveling in a separate car, and working on their anxieties. And many a times special needs families don't travel. And here we were traveling with 2 children. So everything was so planned, that where are we going? What are we going to do? Showing both of them the social stories, each one understanding better in their own ways. And now at this juncture, both of them play together. And even if Shaunak is shouting in his anxious voice, Niva can look at him and say, Dada, or Shaunak Dada, and that is so beautiful. It didn't come easily. It's very difficult. But all this, it just gives us a message that nothing is impossible. And we can work around it. It was a difficult time, but we are here as, happy, in a happy state.
Wow. The kind of patience that is required. And you'll have handled it really well. To be very fair.
It needs a lot of support from the family as well. We are lucky to have both grandparents who are accepting, who are there for us, when need be. So thank you for that. Thank Pura for families.
True that. Though I would really not want to end this conversation, but that we have to. I would really love that one message that you would like to give to our audience, and also one message from you, ma'am.
So I think to the parents, like I've said earlier, there's no substitute for early intervention, and trust your gut. If you feel something is off or something is different in the way your child responds to you or doesn't respond, seek help at the earliest. Be in touch with your doctor. Aside from that, for the parents of the older children who've already perhaps started therapies, and here I'm particularly talking about children with different needs. Don't give up even in the face of setbacks, because while it may seem very easy coming from me to tell you that there is always some support available, seek it. There is no judgment here. You need to do what is best for yourself and for your child. So keep that as a focus of any decision that you make, because ultimately our children are going to be around long after us. So we need to prepare them for that world. So do what is best for your child and let us worry about the rest.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
So my thing is like, I just wish to tell the parents that if not us, who then? And if not, if we don't take a part in their advocacy, who will? So we have to be the first responders. We have to be their voice till they can take over. And also self-care, because co-regulation matters. If you are a stressed out parent, eventually it is going to go into your children. So giving yourself that time, telling yourself that you deserve that time and there is no guilt about it. So I think that is the message which I would like to give my fellow parents.
Which is perfectly put across. Thank you. Thank you so much, both of you. And keep doing the great work that you all are doing. And thanks for being here with us and sharing your insightful information that you all have given us today. Thank you.
Thank you for having
Pleasure
us.
being here.
Thank you, ma'am, for the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks. Thank you, both of you.